G'day legends, Clint here. Well, a couple of weeks ago I went out and competed in the Shifty 50 at Buxton. It's about 52.8 kilometre long race. There's 2 laps depending on if you're doing the Shifty 50 or the Shifty Shorty, which is only about 25 k's for the shorter one. It was really the first ride that I could get out and test the new S-Works Epic 2022 model. It's a bit of a custom build, so we'll go through the details of the bike as well. So the first 40 minutes or so for myself was on the gravel road. Then you get into the single trail. That's where all the fun really begins. Ended up doing it in 2 hours 55 minutes. Averaged about 18.1 kilometers an hour. That's probably about 2.2 k's faster than I did it last year, but last year the conditions were a lot more atrocious. I think the maximum temperature last year was about 6 degrees.
So I'm just past 20 minutes in. Avg Power so far, about 266. Heart rate 153. So it's a little bit higher than I was expecting. About 6.4 k's in. Feeling fairly good, so I'll keep it around 260 for the first lap, and then we'll try and go all out on the last one.
So as I said before, S-Works Epic, I ended up putting MT7 Magura brakes on the front, MT8s on the back, Quark power meter, XX1 crankset,
I'll pass when I can.
Axis derailleur. It ended up being a fairly nice build. Current weight's about 10.3 kilos, including the pedals, which are XTR 9100s.
I know. Only took 40 minutes.
So that lady was ready for a good old chat, but I wasn't going to hang around. So a couple of things I noticed about the bike. As I said before, it's really the first ride in anger, in vengeance that I'd had on it. The suspension, couldn't really pick the difference between that and the 120mm. They both worked fine for me. Did notice on the climbs that it was a lot easier given the brain system on it. Didn't have to worry about locking it out as on the Scott's Bar. One thing I did struggle with a little bit at the start was the control for the derailleur. So a couple of times I jumped out of the saddle to start climbing up a climb, so I'd accidentally bumped the remote and it'd change into a harder gear, and a couple of times I really struggled to get my momentum back after that. So I guess it's something to get used to. Ended up by the end of the race, wasn't really an issue.
So about 45 minutes in now. Back down to 255 watts average. Heart rate 164.
One thing that was really nice was not worrying about the lockout that you have on the Scott Spark, so locking it out, unlocking it all the time, so it was just pedal and ride really.
Going past.
There's a couple of times where I got slowed up a little bit, but I think overall it wouldn't have really changed the position that I ended up in. There's probably about 5 minutes between me and the next person in 13th place. I ended up coming 14th out of 35 in the 40 to 49 age group.
Coming past and
about 35 out of the 110 that competed in the Shifty 50. One thing I also noticed was climbing. It felt a lot more nimble than the Scott Spark. I guess is probably 3 kilos lighter in the bike weight.
Coming past when it's clear.
But also I think, not sure if the bottom bracket's actually higher, but I ended up getting 170mm cranks, and I think that makes a lot of difference. I've had no pedal strikes at all, not only on this ride here, but at the local trails, where on the Spark every second ride I'd be striking the cranks around different corners.
Coming past when it's clear.
So you might hear different comments in the reviews regarding the knocking from the brain system. So this was 1 notch down from the hardest option. It was knocking. You can hear the knock. I guess you need to get used to it. The first couple of rides that I had on the bike, I wasn't sure if it was something loose or the brain. I guess it ended up being the brain because nothing's been damaged. I have tried the softer options since this race, and if you go to the softest option, you can't hear the knocking at all. And I guess it depends if you can handle a slight knocking every now and then when it engages the suspension. But I found it was best for me to have it on one of the harder options. It feels a lot faster and more nimble. I also think this is a little bit more, or the rider's position is a little bit more leant over towards the front. Felt my wrists getting a lot more sore than compared to the Scott Spark, and I think also it's changed the camera angle. So I've normally got to set it up with a line on where the camera and the harness need to be, and as you can see, it's probably facing a little bit further down than where I'd normally have it. So I guess it's something to learn from for the next race. So this is the end of the first lap. Ended up being about 1 hour and 20 minutes, and then there's one more to go. So I think on about the 14th of May there's the next Shifty 50 round at Anglesey over in the western side of Victoria. And I'll be heading over there as well, see how I go. If you've got eagle eyes, you might be able to pause the video at the right time and see the metrics on the head unit. You need to get a little bit of shade, otherwise you get too much glare on there to really see.
So I'm about 28 k's in, just over 1 hour and a half. The average has come down to about 234 watts. The heart rate 156.
So a big shout out to the photographer there on the day. Got a nice picture of me and Peter Nichols, who was in the Shifty Shorty. So I should should finish up by saying a big shout out to the organisers and the volunteers, photographers and everyone that helped around on the day. It's a really nice event. Hopefully all the riders made it home safe and sound without any injuries. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.